Hi, I'm Rachel Lawson from the Drupal Association. Just let me get to the right slides. So, thank you very much for the organisers for giving this opportunity to talk about something that's important to us all, and that's how do we work as communities, and I'm going to use plural there on purpose, within the larger Drupal community. How can we make that successful? So we have some great panellists that have volunteered their time to spend time thinking about this, and they've brought some questions with them which you can start to see on the screen, but we'd also like some questions from the audience as well. And the way we're going to do that is there is a website, Slido, here. We've used this quite successfully at DrupalCon and things like this now. If you go to slido.com and enter the keyword mountain, you'll be able to add your own questions. When you go there, it will ask you for a question. It will also ask you for your name. Please put your name so then I can reference you when the question comes up. That would be really useful. Okay, so without further ado, first of all, I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves. So, Nick.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nick Veenhof. My current job position is CTO at Drupal. It's in Belgium. But on the side, because as associations, usually it's on the side as a volunteer, I'm the chair of the Belgian Drupal Association, and I've been actively involved in the Spanish Association, in the Portuguese Association, and in the Boston Association. The reason why is because I lived in those countries, and I've seen them from start to very active meetups to very obvious, how do you market, all that kind of stuff. And in Belgium, we recently had a Drupal camp in Kent, and if you're curious about how to organize such events or any other questions that you have around the association, I'm happy to answer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Yauhen Zenko. I'm a technical lead at Colors, which is a Dutch agency, but I'm here representing the Drupal community from Belarus, because I'm originally from Belarus and let's say still do a lot of things there to ensure that we have a sustainable community, we can organize events, we can involve more people in the community. So yeah. Right now I'm also busy with organizing Drupal Camp Belarus, which will be in May. So if you're interested about this, talk to me about it.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I'm Vincent Maucorps, I'm from the French Drupal community. I'm currently working at Zwei, which has a subsidiary in Switzerland, which is called Virtua. And I'm the French Drupal Association board since 2013, and nice community. We just organized 1 month ago a Drupal camp in Paris with 350 people. So if you have questions about how to organize a Drupal camp, you can also ask me some questions.
Hi, my name is Imre. I'm from the Dutch Drupal Association. I'm chairman of the association, as a matter of fact. I'm also part of the steering group committee for DrupalCon Amsterdam. And my daytime role is commercial director for Lime Green, Group, a Drupal agency from Amsterdam. Thank you all for having us here. Look forward to the session. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to some questions then. So I think first of all, I'm going to ask Imre a question. I'm going to ask, do you charge membership fees to community members or companies, and why?
Yes, we charge membership fees. We have a partnership program. As a matter of fact, I'll be having a session after 3 this afternoon on many of these topics, including this. I'll dive in more deeply. So we have a partnership program, starting with an individual tier for like €25 all the way up to a gold tier of €1,250. And we have companies asking us, please raise that amount because we want you guys to go ahead, invest, do marketing and so forth. So we're investing that money right now. We're doing great things with it, but we've only just begun.
Any questions from the panel? Any points, comments?
Maybe one comment. So, as the Belgian community, we were very jealous of the Dutch one because they pulled it off. And the reason why we didn't pull it off yet is probably because of lack of time or maybe lack of energy to actually go full force. Right? So we only have 3 members in our association on paper. And the reason why we don't have more is that maybe we have to start doing administration and all the overhead. And we need to figure a way on how to maybe get that in a sustainable model, maybe get a paying person to do that administration. But that's an exercise we're going through right now.
Anybody else?
Yes, in France we have 2 distinct kind of people in the community, which are quite numerous. And there's an association, and we just charge people if they want to be a member of the association. It's quite cheap, I think it's 20 euros or something like that. And we are thinking about having a cheaper or free membership for students, for example. And not just really to get money, because we don't really need this money, it's just to show commitment, and it helps people to be part of the organization events and so on. And we also have some kind of membership sponsorship for the companies. It was not very successful until we had a directory on the website to list the companies only that are member, and it depends on the number of the people doing Drupal in the company. And I think the max price is 2,000 euros or something like that. And then we need this money to jumpstart events and so on.
Yeah, and I'm the jealous guy here on the table because probably it's the same problem for all developing countries, that the legislation ecosystem is, let's say, quite bureaucratic. So you need to do a lot of paperwork, you need to invest a lot of time into organizing, let's say, especially things like non-profits, associations. You need to invest a lot of time into running them. Sorry. So for us right now, we don't have a formal organization. So we act as individuals, and it makes a lot of things complicated, especially things relative to financing. So it's quite interesting, and for us, it's on the long term, of course, on that point that it will help us to develop and create a sustainable community.
Oh, thank you very much. So I think that actually leads on to my next question, which was, how do we ensure the sustainability and continuity of the lead roles in your community? So you're talking there about it's hard work, having to say those things to people. So Yauhen, is there any tips you can give us about making sure that your lead roles will always exist?
Yeah, let's say right now the community in Belarus is driven totally by passion, by personal leadership. So that's, yeah, just talking to people. You know, it's a church structure. You need to be a preacher and to find the people who would like to follow you and who would like to be the same preachers of that, not only of the technology, but about the idea that within the community, within this technology, you can help people to change their lives by being a part of this community. So there is no recipe besides love it, burn, and make other people burn with this passion.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any comments?
Yeah, so we have like a policy document where it's sort of governed in how we make sure that there is follow-up. So there's a board member of our association. We have one in place, right? Every 2 weeks, elected contributors. There's a procedure for that. And once he's elected, we start to get going, and then, you know, when the time runs out, we think, oh, we should find a successor, which is a tad bit too late, but we have a policy to start with. So you need to have an association get started in the first place. I recognize that, I respect that. But once you have that, it's really helpful.
So I kind of recognize all these situations, and in Belgium it's a bit of a mix between the two. There's 3 people, like a chairman, there's a financial person, and then, I don't know how to say this in English, but a person that makes the notes, because that's the 3 official roles that you have to have from the government in a non-profit. The secretary, yeah. Within Belgium, it's kind of like a game, because we just change roles sometimes, because only those 3 people, just they switch. And those are the most interesting in some of the administration. On the other hand, we have a very organic way of doing these events, like a Drupal camp. Now also that the Splash Awards is starting to get some traction in Belgium. There's sprint mentors, there's people that organize all these things, and that's very organic. And they don't really have the need to be part of the formal organization. So a mixture is also possible.
Yeah, in France, the board is, of the association is elected for 1 year, and usually the presidents are doing 1 or 2 years consecutively. And so I was president 1 year ago, and I'm leading the board this year, and I will continue to do the same. And I think since the creation of the association, the board changed quite a lot, and we are always trying to find younger people and bring them on the board at simple places first, and then the next years they can be secretary or president or something like that. And it's working quite well. I think something to do is to step down before you are running out, so you can be a backup if something happens. You can come back to help. And something we wanted to implement is to have some a board elected for 2 years, but with a renewal of half the board after 1 year, so you can bring younger people or new people in the team. But we didn't do this yet.
It's funny you should say that, because one of the things I was saying over the last few weeks has been, if you have roles in the community, your first job when you take a role in the community is starting to look for your successor, and very much seeing your successor as someone that you want to be even better than you. Makes a big difference, because that way you keep things moving.
And sometimes people are coming back. I think this year the next president of the French Association will be somebody who was president 6 years ago, and he's coming back after a big pause.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that I can't find it now. I lost the question. One of the things that you mentioned there was about bringing young people in. I'm looking at our board here, our panel here, and I think that we need to look at how we can attract more young talent into our community. And I don't know, have you got any thoughts on that, Vincent?
Okay. I think in this case the target is people who have plenty of time because they're still in school, they're still students, and so the thing is to target the students and make events quite easy to reach at special prices for students, and advertise them with Twitter or something like that. Tweet to the main school of computer science that you are organizing events and something like that. So maybe the community manager of the school will see it, maybe the students will see it, and they will come.
So I think for this question, a lot of people here also in the room have a certain responsibility, because you most likely work in a company, maybe you're a freelancer, and that's maybe different. But then you have the responsibility to attract these young talents also in your company. Maybe get them along to these events. For example, with the association, we do the Drupal camp in the university. We give free access to all the students to join the camp. But that's only half of the story. The other story is that within our company, we really put in a lot of effort for interns. I think at this point we have 8 interns in our company. And the ones that focus on Drupal, they have to go to Drupal camp, and they're expected to just learn, to understand how such a model works. And I really hope that you within a company, you have that same mindset. If you find it really hard to attract talent, and maybe then build the talent, get them in that community.
I'm very much a promoter of having agencies work on this and take the responsibility in putting the community further and supporting that. I'm also very much a promoter of investing in people and help professionals, like hiring professionals. There's one initiative that we took called Drupal Training Day in 2014, and there were 250 students, teachers, and curriculum coordinators attending, even from Belgium. It was overcrowded. It was a big success, and we had like workshop mentors from the community that have been doing that for a long time, put in their stuff for a day full of training and put Drupal on the curriculum, and get new talent acquainted with Drupal. So that's great. There was one follow-up event on that, and the entire thing is like shelved. It's on the shelf because it's like an operation in itself. We don't have the time, aside from the camp that we organized, to do the entire training academy. Like it's a job, we need an organization put up for that. However, it's something, amazing thing that we accomplished just from the community itself.
And I would like to look at this question from the community events point of view. For example, when we started to organize Drupal Camp Belarus, we had a question: what would be more beneficial to the community, to bring in new people in the community? Organizing Drupal Camp Belarus, or organizing CMS conference, or organizing PHP conference, or organizing open source conference? Because it's a question, when you organize the DrupalCon or Drupal Camp, then it already, let's say, limits the amount of people interested in this. So maybe we should shift this approach or change the approach and organize broader event to attract new people.
Maybe one more thing. For example, in Belgium, also universities teach Drupal. It's part of the curriculum. If you want to go to like a software engineering role within the web development, then you learn PHP, you learn Drupal, you have to set up a commerce site or something. And then obviously they already have made that choice because the school said so. It's something that, for example, Drupal also helped build, because they somewhat wrote a book about Drupal 8 and pushes it in the universities, but also association pushes that because the event is always organized within certain universities. And we do see that that helps in picking up that talent.
Just one more word about attracting new people to the community, young people or senior people. If you are a senior member of the community, I think it's your role, it's our role, your role, to spot new faces in the event and talk to them, make them feel they are in the community, explain them things, because it's difficult for newcomers to talk to people that are in the community and that know themselves for a long time. So you have to be especially vigilant about new faces and try to include them into events are great places to recruit new members, and so don't miss this chance.
Yeah, just one more length of. There's the training day stuff that we have, and there's nothing happening with that now, but we have it for share. So if you have like interest or wanting to go for an initiative in your region on organizing such a training day or setting up a training kit or whatever, we have stuff for that, and nothing happens with that now. I'm very anxious for you all to know how you will be doing it and use it, and maybe we get some exchange on that, so how we can kickstart that.
So this one's going well.
Yeah. And maybe like another thing that you can think of, there's unemployment agency within Belgium. I don't know if it's an agency, whatever, unemployment something. And they also organize courses, obviously. A web developer or an engineer or software developer is a very tough position to fill for companies. So these unemployment organizations say, okay, we'll re-school you and you'll become a web developer. So they have this program for a person that can find a job to reprogram them into a Drupal developer. It's really specific. You can actually get a course from this agency, from this organization, learn how to do Drupal, learn how to do some of the web. You can actually go and talk to these organizations and like, would it be a good idea, because it's a really hard job position to fill.
Cool. So one of the things that I noticed, especially when I was in Drupal Camp Goa, whatever it was it this last weekend on? I'm in some weird time zone now, was in their organisation they made some posters, and they put posters in every college, every high school, every department of every high school, all around the area, and there were a remarkable number of first-time young people attending the Drupal camp. It was incredible to see. Just by walking around the area's educational establishments with a poster and putting it upon the wall, it seemed to work really well. Okay, so talking of international things, if I went to, I'm going to go to Floris. Now, Floris, is he here? He must be here. Hi Floris. So Floris was asking, how do you think we can increase and improve international collaborations and events beyond Europe, for example, Africa and Asia? Now, we don't actually have a beyond Europe person here, so I'm going to go to Imre to start with.
Okay, let me get the question straight.
Yeah, one of the things that we started over the last year is to be really transparent about a few things, like financials, for example. As a non-profit, we were very open to that, but also sharing like the code base for our website, which we kind of modeled towards Drupal.com, but we aren't there yet. But there were several regions interested in that code base that we shared. Splash Awards, obviously, another example. The training day kit, as I just mentioned. So I would very much love to see some Basecamp or platform or whatever open source tool we can use to say, hey, here's a kit ready for you to have, and you know, like a playbook, if you will. If you want to start your own training day, here it is. If you want to organize Splash Awards, go to that folder, download everything you need, change it, put it back, and so forth. So that will be my first step.
They tell bright minds think alike or something like this. So it was also one of my questions, like how can we increase international collaboration? So I thought about this crazy idea, or maybe naive, that we can try to adopt the idea of twin towns. You know, of course, we have some Drupal communities more financially sustainable compared to ones in Africa and Asia. Why not adopt this idea, or try to adapt it? Of course, it's all about people, how we will set this up. But this is something that we can learn from the regular economy, right? So, okay, why the community from Belgium cannot be, let's say, sister or brother community of Kenya, whatever, and build people relationship, help them a little bit, just as an idea in.
And maybe a practical example on an event that actually did this really well is Frontend United. They kind of forced people to come together, to join together to watch remotely the event. So they did live streaming, but they didn't make the link public. At first I thought it was very odd. Why would you do that? But they only gave out that link if you could prove that you're with someone else. So like in a school, maybe in Africa, maybe somewhere in Asia, it didn't really matter, it was worldwide. And then at the end of the event or during the event, they showed a map on where everyone got together, and there were many, many locations. It was awesome to see.
Thank you. So, okay. So how about we talk about... So that's your other question, and I'm going to ask this to Nick. You have your community, and it's a very successful community, but what would you like to change?
I think that the one thing that really needs to change is the whole marketing effort. So there's a whole Drupal marketing effort towards getting more content towards customers, to actually attract a lot more business to all the businesses within that community. Yeah, again, I'm looking a little bit at Imre at the model that they have. But I'd love for that to change, and for that to change, we really need a bit more young blood or just blood into the organizing organ of the community.
Yeah, for me, the one thing would be I would like to see more organic leaders, more people who show their, that they do care, they do want to change things, they do want to develop and move forward.
So I guess that's a case of giving them something to want.
I think with the French community we should try to change the fact that community leaders are tending to do everything. So they are organizing group platforms, they are updating the website, they are doing paperwork and so on. And it would be better if some team were doing only the event, some teams are doing only the website and so on. And it's something we are trying to organize, and it's one of the reasons I don't want to be the board anymore and to be more focused on the local Parisian community and these kind of things.
Yeah, so for me, it's we are in the process of change as far as I'm concerned. So there's a lot of change happening. We have like new blood in our board, other types of people, still from Drupal agencies, but I'm very happy with the change happening that it's okay to spend money and hire people. And we had a lot of debate and discussion going on, say, if I'm going to organize an event and put 100 hours into that, which is, organizing an event is like serious, right? It's serious work. Why don't I get paid? Why does she get paid? Right? We're crossing that barrier where we understand that we need, at some point, have to hire people, invest money into things, while all the same we do the things that we do from a sort of governing way during the evenings. Still do a lot of work, but it's starting to become okay. I'm very happy with that.
Okay, I think actually I'm going to, let's have a look. There is a question from Carlo. Who's Carlo? Ah, of course, yes. Okay, so Carlo has asked, how do you make sure that customers, people we build out Drupal products for, are represented in our communities? Because that comes relevant to some of the things you just mentioned. So, Vincent, what do you think?
We try to emphasize this in the last Drupal camp by creating a track dedicated to business sessions where end users, like your customers, were coming to present their project, because it's this kind of track that is attracting other end users. And I think it was great to see that some end users or potential end users were discovering what the community really is. But you have to have part of your events dedicated to them, and as the biggest agencies in your community to invite them. It was quite successful in the last event.
Yeah, so what we're doing this year in June, our camp, which is always one day, around 450 people, we took the step to make it 2 days. And one day is entirely business, which is a very scary step, because we don't know who's coming, because the first day is going to be very popular, as of old, right? And the second day is like 8 keynotes just for business. So only business oriented. So the first day is entirely development, which is what the community likes, our development community. I should say. And that business day, we're going to close down with the splash awards, because we really put out word for agencies to bring clients to the splash awards, because that's what it was intended for originally, within the center stage. So we hope for the clients, because it's going to be one ticket, to be present at that business day as well, and then get some Drupal rubbing off on them.
Just I will add a word because it was commented for me because we switched this a few years ago. But when I arrived in the community, the events were on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday only. And I say because I'm coming from one of the biggest agencies in France, Drupal, and I said we need to have some end users, and we can't attract them during the weekend, so we have to switch a little the event and have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for scripts, and it's working quite in the.
And for Belarusian community, this question is almost not relevant, because 90% of the IT job that we do is outsourcing. So and that's the part how we actually compensate each other. I mean that in this case we rely on all the great business-oriented job that the communities in Belgium, Netherlands, and France are doing to promote Drupal as a product, as a system.
Anything to say?
No,
No?
I think,
Okay. Okay. So I'd like to move on to, because I think it's relevant to the same thing, a question from Jam around what do you consider the mission of your national local Drupal association? How do you fulfill that mission with volunteers and no budget? So I'm going to ask, I think actually you do have budget at the end, so I'm going to ask, you have that one.
Now, for me and people who I talk to in let's say, to other community leaders in Belarus, it's the answer is quite simple. We do want to change people's lives to better. But it's for us it's very organic and obvious, because again, due to the economy reasons, if you do IT job, you are much more paid. So basically, by bringing people to IT community, by converting non-IT people to IT people, we help to get them the normal life, to be able to afford a better level of life. So it's quite simple as this.
Maybe I want to relate this to a similar question, like why do you join the Boys or the Girl Scouts, or why do you join a certain organization when you're a teenager or a kid? I don't know if many of you have been part of such an organization. Yeah, some. I think it's very similar. And why do you want to be part of something bigger than just a company where you're getting paid to do a certain client job?
I don't question your motivation at all, and I know that all of us want the world to be a better place and the community to be stronger. My question is really practical. Is this a professional activity or a hobby? And if we want to be professional about things and like go to Africa and teach people stuff, how do we do that when we're building organizations that don't have financing in their core concept?
Well, that's a tricky thing. So the Belgian Association has money. We just don't spend it enough.
That hurts.
It hurts, yeah.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
We have
So,
the same in Portugal.
yeah, I think many associations have been doing these events successfully. The Drupal camp has been running successfully for many, many years. It has never been a lost operation because of the community that is pretty big. Obviously in Belgium it's a given, this Drupal thing. Maybe that's a scary part of the Belgian community, and we just take it for granted, which is bad. But in that sense, how people come together, the mission of the Drupal community or the Drupal Association in Belgium is to at least do one really big event and to make sure that people can join and grow their career in that sense, and make sure that you can go to that next step.
So, our local camp revolves around 70,000 euros. Basically, it's sort of more or less. And we start that with a team, but they don't get like, we budgetize it, but they don't like get, so here's like 40,000 euros, go for it. So it needs to be self-sustaining. We make a little profit actually out of each event. But it's entirely volunteer, run by volunteers. There is like a financial plan behind it, but they don't get like a wallet with money. So they need to make sure that the costs are covered. So in that sense, I think that we are doing that with, well, no budget, if you put it like that, run by volunteers. And if we were to back out of that, I think there still would be a gap because there's always people saying it needs to be there.
Yeah, just for the French institutions, the mission of this institution and the following paperwork of this institution, it's very simple thing, like maintain the website, help to translate Drupal in French, and I think organizing events to promote Drupal and ensure promotion of Drupal. So the mission is quite simple, and volunteers are coming and are making the association alive by spending some of their free time, some time from their company. Also, I think the agencies have a role to dedicate time to their employees to help the association. And that's it. And for the events are self-sustainable as well. We have the last Drupal camp in Paris was the same kind of budget, and we were beneficial for 1,000 or 2,000 euros only.
So to come back to your question, John, so what should be the mission of any local associations to grow Drupal in whatever way possible? Maybe it's with people, maybe it's towards marketing efforts so that potential customers are aware Drupal is even a thing and they should consider it whenever they make an RFP. And in that sense, I think that's the next step for the Belgian community, is to do that whole marketing thing, to spend that money to get that next step. Because I think we're more or less successful in getting that community together, making sure that the growth of the people is there. And then maybe like the whole controversial thing is like, and maybe go back to the whole Africa or Europe thing, like should there be something overarching in Europe to grow Drupal in Europe in that sense? And there's customers that are not bound to country borders. And how do we as associations collaborate, or should there be an organization organ in Europe, or is that the DA? I think that's the very interesting question to ask on how do we spend that money and what happens if we start spending all that money.
One more thing. So what Jeffrey said about, is it like a hobby versus like an organizational thing? And I think what we've discovered is that at one point things are starting to get to come to a point where it really becomes sort of an organization. Right? You have like this financial budget, a treasurer working that out. You need to have that in place when it's that amount of money. There's also other topics arising, such as, okay, so there was someone from close by the board. He did us a proposal because he knew that we were looking for advertising opportunities. But that's not quite a fair way to do like purchasing services, right? If someone has knowledge or foreknowledge or something like that. So we need to have a policy for that as well. And before long, we have like an organization running with policies and a financial scheme and everything that goes with it.
This is good stuff. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is move on to a related question, but I'm going to change it slightly and ask, you have your successful communities that are bringing in money. So how do you attract sponsors to your community? And how do they benefit from sponsoring your community? So that could be events, that could be your local association itself, it could be whatever in your local area. So what can you do to attract those people in? I'm going to go to Nick first of all.
So maybe for sponsor, test. Is this on? It's no longer on. I'll speak loudly enough.
No, wait, it is working.
It's working? Alright, working again. So for the CAP, what we did I think last year is that we scraped all the other IT events and saw who sponsored all those general IT events and started to do direct mailing or direct contact and say like, look, do you want to sponsor the event? And there were some successful new sponsors coming in from the event. That said, one of the main reasons why companies would sponsor such an event is to, I think you can guess the answer, find talent in that sense. That's not always very successful because you're competing with 6 or 7 other companies. And I think one of the other main reasons why companies sponsor the event is to get brand awareness. So if there's a new company starting up, because that's what we see over the years, is that they want to be the platinum sponsor just to show, hi, I'm in this community, do you want to talk to me? And then maybe go back to the whole recruiting story. And so far, we haven't seen any issues finding these sponsors. Even in that sense, we have to limit them or raise prices, and that's a balance exercise that we have to do.
Yeah, we do pretty much the same to find sponsors. We see who's sponsoring other events, but we try to do their direct contact, not with mass email sending, because usually it ends up not answered, but we try to reach necessary people via LinkedIn, and yeah, it works for us. But the question is what actually we as a community can offer people or companies who want to sponsor the event is in our market, in our business, it's only hiring. Yeah, so as our customers are abroad, so what people can get, what companies can get, only just to hire talent. So when I actually talk to people, why do you sponsor our event? 50% of them, it's just pure romantic. Yeah, so we do money with this, so we are romantic guys, so we will give you some money for the event.
Yes, I think one of the things is you have to think like the people who are taking the decision to sponsor or not to sponsor an event in the event agency. So you have to try to find what they are looking for, and they are looking for new customers. So the first answer is the same thing, that how to attract new customers, new end users. If you attract them, you will attract sponsors. And the other thing that is interesting agencies is hiring new talents. So you have to try to convince them that your event will be great to hire new people. And another thing which is important is to have a network of C-level people in the agencies to reach the right people. In France, we are quite lucky because most of the people or agencies that are involved in the French community have been at one time or another in the founding part of the own agencies, so they are involved naturally with the concern of the sponsor.
Yeah, so I'm making the case that when we say to potential sponsors and partners, say, hey, with your sponsoring, you contribute to Drupal, you help this event make possible, and you get everlasting fame. And we actually say that to them. And that still works for the hardcore of agencies, and many of them are still with us. But I get agencies come in and say, we will not sponsor you this year any longer because we're going to invest 7,000 euros in that marketing event because that's actually return on investment for us. Right? It's happening now in our region. So we have to deliver value for them now. So the first thing that we did, because we didn't have time to spend money as well, is hire someone for us who is doing it now. So we have a marketing professional half a day a week. And she's chasing us for content. She's preparing advertisements, interviews, and engaging with like business media, right? Getting the word out there, putting client cases in front of a large business audience, and thus delivering value for sponsors to say, hey, here's value for you. And they appreciate that.
And try to do events regularly to be nurturing your potential sponsors. If they are sponsored 1 year and you wait 6 years to make another event, they will totally forget what the event was. So you have to talk with them regularly and grow your network. I think if you have a couple of strong sponsors that will always be there for the events, it's a good base to build greater events little by little.
And maybe to think a bit bigger in terms of Europe as a whole, I think these reasons like to attract talent and maybe brand awareness and the pragmatic reasons, as we say, they become a lot more complex when you do an event like a DrupalCon. So if a DrupalCon goes to, say, a random country, maybe France, why would a Swiss local company sponsor such an event? Do they know they can get recruitment talent from that event? Do they know they can get brand awareness? Does it even make sense? What's the return of investment from such a sponsorship outside of the whole romantic, it's a nice word to say, contributing back to that community? So I think that's a really key question that we have to answer in the coming years on if we do events on a global scale or at least like a European scale, like what the companies get out of it if they sponsor outside of the whole romantic approach.
I like that one. Okay, so these questions are flowing from one to the other quite well. I'm quite pleased. So one of the questions that we have is relevant. So we have local businesses, however, we need them to collaborate to make this community work. How can we do that? How can we collaborate more with local businesses whilst also competing for the same talent? Vincent?
It's difficult to answer this for me because we don't really have this problem. People are, because most other agencies, most business in the community knows that people that are coming to the community are very good, very talented, and everybody wants to have them in their team. So we don't really talk about this because we know that they also know that they just have to raise their hand to change their agency. So we just collaborate with no big trouble with this.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it that often yet in Holland. However, I mean, just like with Mountain Camp, there is several agencies out there, on the whole, with their booths, standing next to each other, drinking coffee. I tell this to people, say this is so special about Drupal and its communities that on one day we are like next to each other with our booths, very friendly competing. On Monday, however, we may meet each other in pitches, or maybe even one agency may call my people and say, hey, do you want to work for us? And that's part of the game that happens. So long as you're in peace with that happening, I think it's, you can find that mode where that works, because we can have like a magnificent collaboration and community going on here. On Monday, it's going to be business.
Yeah, I think that it's just okay. It's the world that we are living in. When we are collaborating with something, it doesn't mean that tomorrow they will not call the people from my team and tell, okay, I suggest you a better working environment, more contribution possibilities, just a better place to show your talent. So it's totally normal. That's how the world works. Unless, of course, you have an agreement that, okay, guys, we are cooperating on the level that we don't call each other to hire talent. But this is a different agreement. This is not something that already is stated, let's say, in code of conduct.
I wouldn't go that way.
Yeah, I do think this is a very interesting topic in the sense that, for example, in Ghent, if I look to my left, there's a company of 20, 30 Drupal people. If I look in front of me, and actually just in front of the window, there's a company with 10, 15 people. On the right, there's another one with 40 or 50 Drupal people. there's 150 people in a range of maybe 500 meters circling around. Obviously, yes, I have a role in Drop Solid in the company I work for, but then maybe in an afternoon I should go to these companies and ask them to pay money to the association, and then hope they understand that I'm not biased. Obviously, I'm biased. There's no way that you cannot be biased in that sense. And then there's a question, should you as an association hire someone that is very neutral and then do that job? Which is also difficult because obviously the financial aspect is there. So there's like a chicken and an egg issue. And I understand people work together, we're all very friendly, but ultimately at the end of the day, you have to make certain decisions. And this model of the open source community is new. It doesn't exist in other technologies in the sense like if you look at Adobe or Zenko, there's a massive company on the top, and then it branches out to smaller ones. Here, it's like a never-ending network, and you don't really know who owns what. So we don't have to go too light on this topic. It is very difficult, and we're actually very successful at pulling it off, albeit quite slowly.
I think it's just a question of trust, and if everything runs smoothly, there's no big problem, and the companies that are aggressively trying to hire people in the other company in the community will have a bad reputation. It would be becoming worse for them, and worse for their business as well. So I think it's quite self-regulating.
Okay, so that's great. I think what I want to do next is ask, we are an international community. What languages do you use at your events? That could be meetups, it could be Drupal camps, etc. I'm especially interested in the answers from the countries where multiple languages are used. So, who asked this? Oh, it was a panel question. So Yauhen.
I think it's first for Vincent because
Yeah.
I asked the question, and in France we are doing French-only events, except when we did Drupal days in south of France, and it was an international event. But we already are attracting plenty of people making French events. And our problem is that if we were trying to switch a local event in English, I think that we were losing some part of the audience, especially end users or new faces. I'm sure that the core people of the community will come, but it's really an issue, and if we want to grow outside France and make more international events, I think it's probably an issue for the French community.
Yeah? Okay, so yeah, we do the regular, our meetups, of course we do in Russian, because by using the, let's say, native language you attract more people. But of course, when we are doing something bigger, like Drupal camp, we try to convert people to speak English, even if they are native Russian speakers. So, and right now, obviously, as the business is globalized, English is the first language that you learn after your software development language. So, yeah, the big events go to English. At least we try to convert people to English.
Have you seen that this session is actually bilingual? This is amazing. And maybe towards the Belgian or I have to say the Flemish part. So Belgium has 4 languages. One is unofficial, and there's French, there's German, there's Dutch, and then obviously there's English. Because we don't know how to talk to each other otherwise. Maybe it's the same in this country, I don't know. But we do the event in English, and maybe that's also one of the reasons why we don't see anyone from the French part. I don't know. So maybe we have to do something similar like you do in this event, is to have a live translator. But then obviously we have to see, if we do that, we have to have some assurances that there's at least one person in the room that doesn't speak English. So, I don't know.
Thank you. I'm actually now intrigued as to which sign language we use it. This won't be BSL, it's not ASL, it must be something else.
Yeah, so I would say that it differs per event, perhaps. Like Splash Awards is really like a local thing. And the audience and the attendees very much appreciate their cases in their language, as we got back from them. Strange as it is, because in Holland, I think the level of English-speaking people is over the 90%, very high. Our local camp, we still do in Dutch, even though people like Floris have been making a case to do it in English, and I have no proper excuse why we still don't do that. So that's going to be my first thing for next year.
I'm intrigued as to recording of sessions if they're not in English and how wide they reach people. So things like we've got Drupal.tv now, which is wonderful. I'm really pleased to see that happening. And people putting their sessions up onto there. I assume that our sessions will go up there too. Hope so. And if they're in Russian or French, will the same number of people watch them? I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we created the after movie for Drupal Jam, which I subtitled in English. YouTube does that for you, but you need to do that in English too. And that worked because I sent that out to the VA and other channels, so at least people can follow what's being said in that movie. But it's not a whole section. I suppose a whole session is like a week's work, to do all the sessions subtitled. That's the first step.
And we have some French speakers outside front that are coming to our event or asking questions to know if there is some video transmission or video recording of some kind in Belgium, the French part of Belgium, and also South Africa.
Cool. Okay, well, it's my favourite question now. In your role as a community leader, from which mistake did you learn the most? So let's start with Imre.
That's a tough question. So, where to start? So I think, we're part in the website business, and we tell clients to, go out there and talk to people, whether the stuff that you do works for them, validate it with people. Because we're so good at thinking out what we think they need. And we tell it to clients, but obviously, many times we don't do that ourselves. So I'm making a case, we are making the case now to go out, validate with people, validate with the partners who pay us. Hey, are we doing okay? What are your thoughts? Are you okay with how we spend your money? How can we do it differently? How can you help and so forth? So I think that's a big step for us to go out there and meet the people we're actually trying to help.
I just got to think of one mistake, or it was to wait to win small victories for bigger projects. And for example, I said that we made the display of your company in the French website condition to the sponsorship, and we waited for that to update our website in Drupal 8. It's still not in Drupal 8, but we waited for 1 year, and then the new president came and said, okay, let's switch the sponsorship condition right now. We don't have to wait. And it was a bright thing. I don't know what we thought that we will wait for the new website and so on, but don't wait to make small adjustments that can bring you a big success.
It's funny actually, I'm actually going to talk on this one. So one of the mistakes I made since I first started as community liaison was at the DA was to work hard on the things that I was doing but not really talk about them that much, and to wait until it was kind of finished before saying, hey, there's this thing. So I want to spend more time very early on in the process talking about the things and pieces that I'm up to. So I'm trying to do more and more of that these days.
Yeah, for me, I think the most important thing was that in building community, consistency is one of the most important things. So if you do some stuff, do it regularly, approach people regularly, inform them regularly, and it helps to grow. It helps to make a community sustainable.
And maybe a practical one. I think the biggest mistake we did as a community, or as a community leader in that sense, it's quite easy to find volunteers for technical jobs in this community, obviously. Yeah? So what you do when there's an event, you create a website. And every time you create a new thing and a new brand and a whole new logo and new colors and new design and this new fancy thing, we stop that. It's one brand in that sense, it's one logo, we change the color over here. It's the same website, and it's a section of the website now. And I think that's also one of the reasons why Drupal Camp last year was so successful, because we spent that same free time, because you only limited the time, on marketing that event and actually getting the details right for that event. So if I can suggest one thing, if you're starting or having a community, stop rebuilding that website.
Yes.
We did the same mistake with Supercomp, but we didn't learn how to progress beyond it yet. And regularity, I totally agree with Yauhen, and regularity is the key. You have to have regular meetups so that people get accustomed to show their face to the community. It's very important.
Any final comments from anyone? No? Well, thank you very much everyone for coming along. Thanks to the panel for being kind of sat in the hot seat for the last hour, which is quite hard work. So well done everyone. And I believe it's now a break. So it's time to go get coffee. Thank you very much.
And thanks to Brother. To help us to grow our community and be the part of this.